We have the ISIS shooting in Garland, Texas, to deal with. Pam Geller, leader of the group that was conducting this little convention, and she was fascinating on CNN this morning, being grilled, interrogated by the former Fox News infobabe, Allison Camerata, who has now moved over to CNN. 2 gunmen were killed Sunday in Texas after opening fire on a security officer outside a contest for cartoon depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, and a bomb squad was called in to search their vehicle as a precaution. Now, I left out a word when I read that lead by the AP. They put the word provocative in there. Let me read it again. 2 gunmen were killed Sunday in Texas after opening fire on a security officer outside a provocative contest for cartoon depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. Provocative. You notice how the AP manages to blame the victims here without blaming the perps. Now, the victims are responsible for this. And even this hate monger that runs this specious organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is somewhere in Alabama. This guy named Mark Potok. In fact, we just got a soundbite from this guy. Grab soundbite number 23. Listen to this. This is a classic example of a leftist activist saying, oh yeah, you got the freedom to do what you want. You got the freedom to say what you say. But you better beware that you are responsible for what happens to you, or some such thing. Let's listen.
I couldn't agree more. The First Amendment should be defended. Free speech is a good thing. It's integral to democracy. But Pam Geller and her organization is a hate group today, just as they were day before yesterday. I think that is important to remember. She really does specialize in this kind of event. It seems to me it's rather similar to the Reverend Terry Jones burning Korans in Florida. These are provocations that are aimed at stirring the pot, and it doesn't seem terribly surprising that, in fact, they get the response that, in the sense, they're seeking.
Yeah, they want to be shot at, right? Yeah, they're trying to provoke being shot at, see? They're provocative. Freedom of speech? Heck yes. Use it all you want, but realize when you do that you are responsible for what happens to you. Well, that doesn't work in a lot of other things. I mean, in a rape case, try telling the woman, hey, look at the way you were dressed. Doesn't fly, does it? Nor should it. So here are people at convention. Pam Geller, you'll hear her in a moment. Soundbite's coming up. She doesn't hate anybody. She just doesn't want any part of Sharia law. She doesn't want any part of Islamic extremism becoming mainstream in the United States. I have a question, folks. It's a very simple question. If Americans are to respect and obey the laws of Islam that say the drawing pictures of Muhammad is not permitted and should not be done, and you deserve what you get if you do, then why wouldn't we have to respect or obey other things in Islam? What is it about drawing cartoons of the Prophet? Why don't we respect Islam's punishment for gays and women? I mean, if they're right, aren't they? When do we follow and when do we not? I want to go back to the shooting in Texas, and before we get to the Pam Geller soundbites, I have a serious question here, folks. A very serious question. You just heard Mark Potok from this hate organization called a Southern Poverty Law Center. Make no mistake, that is a hate organization. And their hatred is for anything not Democrat. Their hatred is for anything Republican or conservative. I wonder how the president's going to respond to the situation in Garland, Texas. ISIS shooters show up because it is said they were provoked. Pam Geller and her group, oh yeah, they can have a convention on drawing cartoons of the Prophet, but they are responsible for what happens. If somebody pulls a gun out and shoots at them, it is their fault. not the perps, not the shooters. It's their fault because Islam tells us you cannot draw pictures of the Prophet. Okay, fine. If Americans are to respect and obey the laws of Islam that prohibit the drawing of pictures of Muhammad, then why wouldn't Americans have to respect and obey Islam's laws and punishments regarding gays and women? I mean, if it's that important to them, who are we to disagree? If they say you can't draw pictures of the Prophet, and we say, you're right, we can't. And anybody that does, why, they're going to get what's coming to them. Now you move over to other aspects of militant Islam, and we know what happens to homosexuals in Iran or any other Islamic country. We know what happens to women. Well, if we're going to respect and obey the laws about drawing cartoons of the Prophet, don't we have to respect what Islam says about homosexuality and women? I mean, where do we draw the line and say, no, we can ignore that? But it's picture business. Nope, we got to follow that to the letter of the law. We got to follow that to the letter of Islam. We got to follow that to the letter of Allah. But the gay and women thing, not so much. Now, the President of the United States, I wonder if anybody will say that he might have some involvement in this incident in Texas, because was it not President Obama who said something about, yes, the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet. The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet. That would be Pam Geller and her group. So the president says the future must not belong, and the slander of the Prophet is according to Islam, not me. Militant Islam says drawing pictures of the Prophet Muhammad is slander. It's criminal. And Obama himself said the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet, i.e. Pam Geller and her group. So if the president, and he said that at the UN, he said it in a number of places, does that not sort of green light people in ISIS who want to take up arms and go after people whom they believe are slandering the Prophet? Could the president say this: the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet by allowing same-sex marriage? You know militant Islam prohibits that. When militant Islam prohibits the drawing of pictures of the Prophet, we snap to. When militant Islam does not permit gay marriage or, in fact, homosexuality, are we going to snap to and respect that? What do you think? Obviously not. So why one and not the other? How do we get to, how do the Democrats, how does Mark Potok of the hateful Southern Poverty Law Center get to pick and choose which parts of Islam are going to be respected and which parts are going to be ignored? It's Pamela Geller on with Allison Camerata today on CNN. And the question, the point isn't that you don't have the right to do what you did, have this convention of cartoon contests about the Prophet Muhammad. Sure, you can do that. It just seems that you don't draw the distinction between extremism and violence and Islam as a whole.
You don't draw the distinction between civilized men and savages, because you're saying that if something I say offends someone, then they have the right to behave in a certain way, that it's going to incite them. I think it's ridiculous. I think the blasphemy laws under the Sharia is ridiculous. I think the people, the tens of thousands of people that are slaughtered under this law is monstrous, and that's what you and I should be addressing.
It's an excellent point. Just because I say something that offends somebody, they have a right to come shoot at me? You think that they're justified? It's my fault for inciting them? So Camerata and Pam Geller continue on the same theme.
The problem comes when you paint with this broad brush and when you say savages in the same sentence as Islam. It makes it sound as though you're calling Muslims savages. And when he makes these broad brush, broad stroke
Allison, show me where I used Muslim and savages one time in my entire life. Show me now. You just made an accusation. Show me where I said that.
Well, you were just saying savages.
I said you did not draw a distinction between civilized men and savages. Civilized men can disagree. Savages will kill you when they disagree.
She is exactly right. It's a mistake for anybody to go up against this woman intellectually. She's going to have them tied in pretzel knots, particularly if they just deal in knee-jerk reactions like many half-informed journalists do. By the way, just so you know, ISIS-linked Twitter accounts claimed responsibility for the Texas shooting even moments before it happened. ISIS-linked Twitter accounts claim responsibility for shooting in Texas before it happened, and yet the media is still trying to blame Pam Geller for being provocative. Anyway, got to take a brief time out here at the top, but we got lots more on the other side, so stay with us. Back at you, folks. Rush Limbaugh. Executing assigned host duties flawlessly. There are no mistakes. A thrill and delight to be with you. The telephone number is 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. According to the Daily Mail, former terror suspect well known to the FBI is named as one of the two gunmen shot dead by cops after the attack on the Draw Muhammad art contest near Dallas in Garland, Texas. The FBI has named one of the gunmen as Elton Simpson, who was convicted of lying to federal agents about traveling to Africa 5 years ago, but a judge ruled it couldn't be proven that he was going to join a terror group, so it was thrown out. Elton Simpson's Phoenix, Arizona home has been surrounded, and a bomb squad is carrying out a search. Simpson, by the way, was placed on probation 5 years ago for his terrorist activities. He and his roommate are the prime suspects in the attack, and Simpson is the guy that sent the tweets before the attack claiming responsibility. That's right. ISIS-linked attackers, this guy Elton Simpson, tweeted minutes before the attack that they were responsible for it. If this guy were half as smart as he thinks he is, he would have sent out a tweet saying, I'm only doing this because Pam Geller is making me do it. And the media would have supported the guy. And then Allison Camerata and others could have gone to Pam Geller and said, see, you made him do it. You had to do this contest on drawing the Prophet Muhammad, and you know that somebody was going to come out and shoot you, and he did. If this guy was, what an idiot. Don't claim credit for it. Blame the people that do the convention. Then you'll have the media in your hip pocket. We have one more Pam Geller soundbite with CNN this morning, Allison Camerata, in which she has to explain what her conference was about. Question. I don't want to play a semantics game with you, but I do think that your critics have a point when they say that you paint with a broad brush stroke and it sounds like you are anti-Islam.
I am anti-Jihad. I am anti-Sharia. You, by saying I paint with a broad brush, are saying all Muslims support Jihad. And Allison, you sound very Islamophobic. My event was about freedom of speech, period. Who would decide what's good and what's forbidden? These arbitrary voices? You? The Muslim Brotherhood? The fact that we have to spend upwards of $50,000 in security speaks to how dangerous and how in trouble freedom of speech is in this country. And then we have to get on these news shows and somehow we are, those that are targeted, those that were going to be slaughtered are the ones who get attacked, speaks to how morally inverted this conversation is.
Do you see her point? She's making the point that she's not anti-Muslim. She's anti-Jihad. She's anti-Sharia. Believe me, none of you want Sharia. Well, I mean, I don't know. But you hear the term Sharia bandied about. and it's something distant, and it's over there, and you think it's so un-American, and it's specious to even worry about it here, and it's nothing more than fear-mongers and panic-mongers are trying to get everybody worked up about it. Well, I can give you a great example of what living under Sharia would be like. Remember Indiana? After they passed the Religious Freedom Protection Act? Remember what happened there? You had the news media joining with militant gay groups to go out and find bigots. They wanted to find bigots. They went door to door shopping for bigots, and they found this naive young little girl, part of a family, runs a pizzeria in some town in Indiana of 2,000 people. And they asked her a question. Would you cater a gay wedding with your pizzas? No, I wouldn't. My religious beliefs do not support gay marriage. But you saw what happened to her? The entire news media, accompanied by militant gay groups, descended on that family, tried to put it out of business. You've seen it with flower shops and cake shop, bakery shops and photography studios. That's essentially what Sharia is. You will behave. You will conform. You will not say what we don't want to hear. You will obey. And if you don't, bammo, this is what's going to happen to you. That's what Sharia is, except with the tenets of militant Islam thrown in. You're not given any choice in the matter. You must conform. You must convert. You are going to live the way we tell you. There is no First Amendment. There is no freedom to assemble. It all has to be sanctioned and approved. It has to come under the guidelines of whatever the Sharia says is permissible or isn't. You saw just a modified little version of it. And it's really rooted in the fact that if you behave or speak in an unacceptable way, you are going to feel the full force and brunt of the people and organizations who do not permit you, will not permit you to do or say what you are doing. You'll be shamed for whatever. And that's a form of it. And I would venture to say that while not technically Sharia, you can find examples of what it would be like already happening in this country. And Pam Geller is simply saying, I don't support Sharia. I'm opposed to Sharia. I'm opposed to Jihad. And I'm demonstrating something. We live in a country with freedom of speech. And I'm organizing a little cartoon drawing contest here. I have the First Amendment rights to do this. And she's illustrating this to make a point. Look what happens to people who follow and obey the Constitution. They get blamed. And folks, that's, you call it whatever you, Stalinism, statism, Sharia. I mean, the Sharia specific definition is not just Stalinism, but the regime comes and gets you. If you don't comport, the regime's going to come and get you. You're going to be blamed. And so she's simply saying, look at here. I had to go out and spend $50,000 for security because we knew that some people were going to come here and try to incite violence. And what she's saying to the media, it sounds like you condone them. You're blaming me. I'm the peaceful purpose here. I'm not doing anything to anybody. We're just speaking. We're drawing. And you sound like, journalist, Ms. Journalist, you sound like you think all of this is my fault. And she's merely saying it's really, really dangerous when the people who come and try to blow things up or shoot people dead are the victims. But in liberalism, this is how things have indeed been twisted.